Somewhere I Belong, Chapter 14, Part 2. I would have made it work. Look, Rares, you're an excellent designer, but there are some things that you just can't fix. Like that hat. I've seen water buffalo that look more subtle than that thing, he said as he finished his coffee. I suppose you're right, she said as the two got to their feet and walked out of the shop. Isaac threw his white hood over his head and walked beside the mare, who was staring at him. Honestly, Isaac, why do you insist on keeping that hood up? I don't want to end up on the 6 o'clock news with the title, New Species Discovered. I'm pretty sure I'd get a bag thrown over my head and hauled off to get dismantled and experimented on, he said with a groan. If something like that did happen, I'm sure Celestia and Luna would clear things up, she said with a smile. The human nodded and continued walking until an old shop caught his eye. The small building was wedged between two tall skyscrapers and looked like it was made when the city first started. Isaac? Hang on, I want to see something, he said as he walked towards the shop. You can't be serious. This place sells trash. One man's trash is another man's treasure, he said as he went through the door. The inside smelled like burning herbs and spices. He looked around at the antiques until he noticed an old mare with a cane and a pair of thick dark glasses on her nose. Hello there. What can I do for you? She said in a sweet tone. I was just looking around your shop. Wish I could, she said as she pointed to her glasses. Isaac immediately gulped. It's all right, dear. I'm used to it. You must have a knack for the strange and mysterious if this shop caught your eye. You could say that, he said as a young green unicorn mare with brown hair came from the back. Hello. Need help finding anything? She asked in a cheery tone. No, thank you. We were just leaving, Rarity said in a flat tone. You can if you want. Come on, Isaac. This place is boring. Hey, you dragged me to all those clothing stores. Now it's my turn, he said as he eyed the mare. The white mare put a pouting face on and whimpered. That look doesn't work on me. Save it for Spike, he said as he looked around the shop. The mare let out a sigh and stood by the counter. Isaac made his way through the shop and looked at the various items. The man's eyes shrank as his eyes fell upon a certain item. Ma'am, where did you get this? He asked in a flat tone. That? I don't know. Just found it here one day. No idea what it is, though. No pony will buy it, the young mare said with a shrug. The man picked it up and placed it on the counter. How much? Seriously? The mare said in surprise. Yeah, that'll be 50 bits, she said with a smile. 50? He said as he cocked an eyebrow. Yep, no problem, he said as he pulled out the bit bag. Clearly, these guys don't know what this thing is. If they did, they'd most likely destroy it. And they'd most likely hurt themselves. I won't let that happen, he thought as he paid the mare and put the item in his bag. The elderly mare suddenly got to her feet. We have a special on this week. A free fortune-telling with every purchase, she said with a smile. You'd better take her up on the offer. Granny's predictions are pretty good, the mare said with a smile. How will that work? I mean, Rarity was cut off as the mare chuckled. There are many ways to see the world, dear, she said with a smile. Isaac shrugged and followed the mare into the back room. The room was small with a single table in the center. The two sat down at either end. Okay, now I need something that holds sentimental value, she said as she stretched out her hand. Why? The spell needs something to lock onto, she said in a flat tone. Isaac rifled through his pockets inside. His gaze then fell upon his arm, which had a wooden beaded wristband with carvings into each bead. The man reluctantly pulled it off his arm and handed it to the mare. Thank you, she said as she rolled it around in her palm. Good. Now give your right hand. Isaac complied and outstretched his hand. The elder mare took it and quickly pulled out a pin and plucked it into his flesh, drawing blood. Jesus, what the hell was that for? He yelled as he tried to withdraw his hand from her grasp. Payment, she said as she squeezed, and a small drop of blood fell onto the wooden wristband. The mare let go, and Isaac immediately pulled his hand away and rubbed the sore spot. The mare's horn glowed, and the wristband was levitated and started to spin. Isaac looked in surprise as the mare's eyes started to glow. A beam of light connected their foreheads. I can see it now. Her voice changed from her usual cheery voice to one that sounded like she was possessed. You're a traveler, a long, long, long way from home. You are like a coin, two sides, two voices with the same goal, she said as she looked at the man. Be wary, your song will end soon. What are you talking about? It will knock 4 times. Isaac's mind was going crazy as he felt the foreign influence flash multiple pictures. Take up arms, old soldier. There is still a battle to be fought, and a choice must be made. Rarity poked her head into the room and let out a gasp at the sight. Know one last thing, child. You are not alone. The glow from her eyes left as the connection was severed. She sat back and breathed heavily. The mayor looked at the man, whose face had lost all its color, and had a look of pure fear. So sorry, dear. Did I say something? She said in her normal tone. You don't remember? Isaac said as he caught his breath. Sorry, I don't remember the fortunes. They just come and go. She said with a smile. Isaac quickly got to his feet, hurried over to Rarity, and grabbed her hand. As he left the shop, the younger mare hurried after him with a bag in her hand. Sir, you forgot your item, she said as the human stopped. Okay, no offense, but your grandmother is crazy, she said as she bit her lip. For lack of a better term, yes, he said as the mare handed him the bag. Tell me, do all her predictions usually come true? He asked in a nervous tone. Sometimes, she said in a low tone. I'm sorry about your hand. It's just how it works. It's fine, he said as he raised his right hand to show that the wound was healing. See, good as new, he said as he cracked his knuckles. Right. Oh, here's your bracelet back, she said as she tossed him the wooden bracelet. Isaac nodded and put it around his arm. Hope you come again, she said with a wave. Hopefully next time we skip the bleeding, he said as he walked away from the shop. Rarity looked at him in confusion as the two hurried away from the shop. Isaac, what's wrong? Rarity asked. The man remained silent as they hurried through the streets. Isaac felt a mixture of emotions flood through him, curiosity, anxiety, and fear. As the two entered the wooded park, Rarity ripped her hand away from the man's tight grip. Isaac! The man snapped back to reality and looked at the mare, who had a look of fear on her face. Sorry, Rarity, I just had to get out of there, he said as he sat down at a bench and caught his breath. The mare sat down next to him and put a hand on his shoulder. That mare was obviously crazy, she said in a reassuring voice. I mean, she thought you were a soldier. I was, once, he said as he looked down. I felt her crawl into my mind. She saw my memories, my thoughts, everything, he said as he held his head. The mare rubbed his back and comforted him. She then noticed the item in the bag. What is that thing anyway? She asked. Nothing, just a trinket, he said as he grabbed the bag. Isaac, what is it? Isaac let out a sigh and looked back at the mare. It's something from my world. What? How is that possible? The doctor told me that I came here through a rift. A what? Rarity said in a confused sounding voice. Think of reality and time like a piece of fabric tightly woven together. There are these little gaps in the material that can let things fall through. The mare nodded her head. I fell through one of them. So other things can fall through them too? Yeah. Other humans? Possibly, but unlikely. The doctor said that if a living thing were to fall through, there'd be no way of knowing when or where they'd end up, he said with a sigh. He pulled out his phone and glanced at the time. It's getting late. We'd better head back and get ready, he said as he got to his feet. The mare nodded and the two made their way back to the hotel. The two walked through the streets in silence as they made their way through the busy crowd of ponies. They entered the lobby and made their way upstairs. Rarity was going through her purse and let out a gasp. What? I left my key in the room. The man facepalmed. Great, he said with a groan. Wait a second. His head perked up and he reached inside his pocket and pulled out the silver rod the doctor had given him. Let's hope this works, he said as he pointed it towards the keyhole and pressed the button. After a few seconds, the two heard a satisfying click come from the lock and they made their way inside. Now I see why he carries this thing around with him, he said as he slipped the instrument back into his pocket. The man pulled out his suitcase and threw on his collared white shirt, jet black pants and jacket, along with a red straight tie. He looked at his watch and let out a sigh. He lay back on the couch and dozed off to sleep. That eager for our lesson? A voice said in the man's head. Isaac looked up to see Princess Luna smiling at him. Might as well get a lesson in while I wait for Rarity. God knows that could take hours, he said with a chuckle. The mare smiled. Her expression then turned flat as a shiver ran down her spine. Is something wrong? I sense that there is something wrong with you. How do you know? I'm in your head, remember? She said as she cocked an eyebrow. I have no idea what you're talking about. He lied. The Dark Princess glared at the man, who held a bad poker face. Isaac, as a friend, we ask that you be truthful with us, she said in a stern tone. Fine, sorry for lying. It's just that I can't seem to make much sense of it myself. The man then told the princess about his fortune being told. That's when Rarity and I hightailed it out of there. He said with a sigh. The mayor put a hand on his shoulder and smiled.